Greetings and welcome to the Big D Podcast. I am your host, contributor at fansided.com, Chris Halicke. This is the debut episode, everybody. This is the very first of the Big D Podcast. We are going to be covering everything Dallas sports. That's your Dallas Cowboys, your Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Stars, Texas Rangers, maybe even some FC Dallas. And we'll get into college sports too. There's going to be so much. There's too many sports in Dallas to cover. But we're going to be talking about as much as we possibly can. I'm super stoked. This is something I've been wanting to do for a really, really long time, and it's happening now. It's just all about putting the pedal to the metal, putting your foot down on the gas, and just driving. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're going down the highway. We're not looking back. And this is it. I've got so many things planned for this. A lot of things are still kind of in the works. Talking to a couple people about about who I might bring on. This is going to be a lot of fun. And I'm like I said, I'm super stoked. But before we really dive deep in, I do want to talk about what this podcast really is going to be. That's a lot of what this particular episode is going to be. It's going to be talking a lot about just what this podcast is going to be for. And but before we get into that, let me introduce myself. Like I said before, my name is Chris Halicke. If you don't already, you can follow me on Twitter at Chalicke, Chalicke. If you ever wondered how to pronounce my last name, I just said it. You can also follow the podcast at Big D Podcast. And the podcast is going to be available. I don't know exactly what all platforms it's going to be available on yet. It will for sure be on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. And I'm going to look into some other ones. I'm not exactly sure yet. As soon as I know that, I'll be tweeting it out. I'll be putting it out on any platform that I possibly can of what all platforms it'll be on. Oh, it'll also definitely be on YouTube as well. So anyway, a little bit about myself. I moved to Dallas at the age of 13. Well, I was almost 13. I was 12, about to turn 13 in June of 2000. So I've lived in Dallas for almost exactly 19 years. Moved here from Pittsburgh. Both of my parents are born and raised in Pittsburgh. I was actually born and raised in New Jersey by my parents. So I was raised in New Jersey by two Yinzers. And they're probably going to get on to me for calling them Yinzers. Either way. But anyway, I moved to Texas in 2000, so I've lived here for 19 years. I'm called, by some of my friends, I'm called a Yankee. By some people, sometimes certain words will come out in a very Texan way. So my wife will say, "Man, you've converted." And I'm like, I don't know, I like to consider myself a hybrid. So that's pretty much how I consider myself in this whole thing. There are things about northern living that I really, really like, and there are things about living in Texas that I really, 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 really like. And one of the best things about living in Texas is Whataburger. It really is. No, but also like no state tax. If you want Four Seasons, don't live here. It is what it is. It's been an experience living in Texas, but it's definitely been awesome. I've made some great friends here. I met my wife here. My wife and I have set up our home here. And this is where we're staying. And that is why I wanted to get into talking about Dallas sports. And if you're wondering, why did it take me 19 years? Well, there's a lot that goes into that. And if you wanted to get to know me better on a personal level, then reach out to me. But we're just going to go ahead and dive in now to what this podcast is going to be about. Like I said before, we're going to be talking about the four major sports, the four major teams in those sports. Being the Cowboys, the Mavericks, the Stars, and the Rangers. I'm going to have the most fun talking about the Mavericks and the Rangers. Those are the two teams that I am the most invested in. I will, I guess, put it that way. You can call me a fan of those teams. I call myself a fan of those teams. But I think just because of how I've been able to relate to the teams personally. The Mavericks, obviously, when I moved here, being born and raised by two people, by two Pittsburghers, Pittsburgh doesn't have an NBA team, so I didn't have an NBA team that I had any kind of allegiance to. So when I moved here and a couple of years later, I started making some friends that were Mavericks fans. I just got into watching Dirk and watching the Mavericks, and I just fell in love with watching Dirk Nowitzki play, and that's what got me hooked into the Mavericks. And it kind of was a similar thing with the Rangers. It was a few years later. I kind of watched the Rangers here and there, and I really got into the Rangers whenever Josh Hamilton came here and he broke out and he had his story. It was compelling for me. Just everything that he went through and the fact that he was using his platform to talk about the things that he was talking about, and the fact that he was playing so well on the field. And I think Ben Rogers on 105.3 The Fan calls him or like a real life Roy Hobbs. And The Natural is my favorite baseball movie, and so anything that alludes to The Natural is just my wife is rolling her eyes right now somewhere because we have different feelings about that movie. But that's okay. Everybody to each his own. We both agree on other baseball movies. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to have the most fun talking about the Rangers and the Mavericks, but we are going to talk a lot of Cowboys. Obviously, this is Dallas. This is, the site of America's team, and we're going to talk about Cowboys. Anytime soon, it's not going to be as much. I mean, we're still kind of in that whole OTAs mini camp thing. We're still about a little more than a month away from training camp. But once training camp starts and preseason starts and we start getting closer and closer and closer to the football season, we will be ramping up the Cowboys talk. We will also be doing some other things with football, and I will get into that after we talk about these four major sports, because there's some other things I want to do outside of the four major teams. But I also want to let everybody know that we are going to talk hockey on this podcast. Not only are we going to talk Dallas Stars, but we're going to talk hockey in general. But I am really excited to talk Dallas Stars hockey. The Stars fans in this city are so loyal. They really are. I play hockey I've actually taken a little bit of time off because I have two small children and I just needed a break. Needed to be able to be a good husband and be a good father and help out at home. So I took some time off from playing hockey, but I'm going to get back into it here in the fall. And I love hockey. I love talking hockey. I love playing hockey. And that's what we're going to do. We are going to talk hockey on this podcast. And I've got some plans some of those plans are TBD, but I am definitely looking into doing some really good things on this podcast when it comes to the Dallas Stars and talking hockey as well. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing with the four major teams. We're going to be talking about just about anything. It's not going to be, usually one episode is going to be dedicated to one team. Unless there's just two things that I want to knock out in one episode, like two things, like, for example, the Mavericks and the Stars free agency both start like right at the same time. So if like the Stars sign somebody really big and the Mavs sign somebody really big, I might just knock out one podcast and let everybody know, hey, the first half is going to be for the Mavs and the second half is going to be for the Stars. So that's going to be how we do this. It's pretty much just going to be one episode is going to be dedicated to one team or one topic. We're not going to be doing a lot of jumping around where we're going to talk about Cowboys for 5 minutes and talk about Mavs for 10 minutes and talk about, it's just going to be one episode per team pretty much. How frequently, it really just depends on how frequently there's stuff to talk about. Now, obviously, we could talk about stuff every single day, but it's going to be kind of a supply-demand type thing. Like, I feel like that if there's something to talk about, I'm going to get on here, I'm going to knock out a pod real quick, and I'm going to upload it and get it out there. If there's something that you guys want me to talk about, shoot me a tweet, shoot me a DM, shoot me anything, and I'll talk about it. So that's pretty much like the gist of the show when it comes to like how often we're going to do this. It's definitely going to be at least a weekly show. We're going to be doing probably more than one pod per week. Again, it just depends on what's all going on here pretty soon. Once July hits, up until then, it's pretty much just the only team in season right now is the Rangers. So for the next 3-4 weeks, it's going to be a lot of Rangers talk, maybe with some Mavs free agency preview and some Stars free agency preview and some Cowboys preview going into training camp here soon. But once the beginning of July rolls around, and we're going to be needing to talk about Mavs and talk about Stars, what they're going to be doing in free agency. And then obviously middle of July, whenever training camp starts, we're going to start previewing the Cowboys season. And it's going to be, there's going to be a lot to cover once July hits. July hits, it's going to be hitting the ground running. We're going to be still going Rangers. We're still going to we're going to get really dive deep into the Cowboys. And then October is going to roll around, and then it's going to be Stars and Mavs. And who knows? I'm an optimist. Maybe even the Rangers will still be playing in October. I don't know. As of right now, they are. They are holding on to, this podcast is being recorded on Monday night, June 3rd. And as of right now, the Rangers are in sole possession of the second wildcard spot in the standings. So if the season ended today, the Texas Rangers are in the playoffs. So I'm going to be an optimist. It's probably not going to happen, but I'm going to be an optimist and say the Rangers are going to be playing in October. That would be awesome to have all four teams playing at the same time. So outside of the four teams, I also really want to talk about some other things, because obviously there's a lot more than just the four teams when it comes to all the major sports. For example, coming up here soon, this is something else we could be getting into. The Women's World Cup is right around the corner. If you don't follow soccer, the U.S. women's team is the bomb. They put our men's team to shame. For example, our women's team is the defending World Cup champions. They won the World Cup in 2015. And the Men's World Cup last year, the U.S. men's national team did not even qualify. That just shows you where our women are compared to where our men are. Even though our men are up on the rise, they will be, I'm going to go ahead and confidently say they will be in the 2022 World Cup. But yeah, we're probably going to have at least one pod, if not more, talking about the Women's World Cup. The U.S. women's team, they're fantastic, and they are worth talking about. Some other things that we might do, haven't really thought too much about doing pop culture stuff. I was actually just on a podcast called The Donut Bag, where we talked about Office, stuff on The Office, like our favorite scenes and stuff like that. And that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. So that gave me an idea whenever I was thinking about starting this podcast, like, well, maybe I'll do some pop culture stuff. Really, it's just going to be what you guys want to listen to. If you guys want to talk about The Office, if you guys want to talk about Avengers Endgame, which by the time that this podcast is coming out, everybody's already seen it, or all the spoilers have already happened. But just to throw, whatever is relevant, whatever is popular, if you guys want to talk about it, we're going to talk about it. It's probably a safe bet to say that we're going to steer clear of politics. Probably not going to be diving into politics on this show. We definitely want to keep it to sports, maybe get into some pop culture stuff. But some other sports-related stuff we might get into, like I said, when we get closer to football season. Probably going to do a couple fantasy football previews. I'm a really big fantasy football nerd, and you're going to want to heed my advice, okay? And all of the people that play in my league are all rolling their eyes right now, but I am the defending champion in my league. And I've won the championship 3 times. I've been to the championship game 6 times. You're going to want to listen to me because I'm doing something right, because I'm always in the running just about every year. And other guys that I've played with in other leagues, there was like one really bad year that I had where I finished like second to last. And other than that, I'm either right in the middle of the pack, sniffing the playoff spot, or I'm in the playoffs or in the championship. So I know how to build a good fantasy football team. So if you want to get in, or if you like to play fantasy football but you don't do so well, or you just want to get better, believe me, there's a way to do it. And I will get into that whenever we get closer to fantasy football season. You know what? I'll just give a quick little nugget. I always recommend doing a live draft, not an online draft. Now, obviously, some leagues you can't do live because the league is set where it's like 10 guys and 7 of them live all in different states. So obviously you can't do it, live. But if you can do it live, just the drafting strategy, I'm telling you, it's a totally different energy, and you begin to feed off of what the other guys and how they're building their team. And yeah, so there's a little fantasy football nugget for you. That's a very, very small, maybe even crappy one, but yeah, just kind of get into that. But there's just some ideas of what we're going to be doing. Really, the sky's the limit. There's like no limits on what we're going to talk about here. Like I said, other than politics, we're not going to get into that. But when it comes to sports, man, we're going to talk college football. We're going to talk, we're going to talk so many different things. And I've got some people that I've already kind of reached out to a couple of them about wanting to get on here to talk about specific things. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have a blast doing this podcast. If you guys have any questions for me, you guys are, like I said before, you guys are more than welcome to shoot me a DM, to shoot me a tweet. You can either do it at my personal, at Chalicke, CHALICKE, or shoot me a tweet or DM at the podcast's Twitter, which is at Big D Podcast. And as we close up on this particular episode, this debut episode, there is different segments I might want to do in each show or in each episode of the show. I'm not exactly sure what all. I have a lot of ideas bouncing around in the head, but one thing I want to do at the end of every show is just going to be my walk-off. And it's going to be, sometimes it'll be something serious, something sentimental, to either send positive vibes out to you guys, or it's going to be something just completely ridiculous. Something like, why is he even talking about that? And my walk-off today is going to be just that. So, for the very first Big D Podcast walk-off, here it is. On Twitter, on Saturday, I want to say it was Saturday. If you don't follow her already, if you're a Rangers fan, definitely do it, at Emily Jones McCoy. She is the sideline reporter for the Texas Rangers. She does an absolutely fantastic job. She's also pretty funny on Twitter, and she sent out a tweet of a poll of the most, like, what argument is most ridiculous. I think it was between the argument between Dallas and Fort Worth, or the argument between In-N-Out and Whataburger. And I replied to it, and I have thought about it more. I was like, this is what I'm going to do for my first walk-off. Why does it have to be one or the other? Like, why? Can't it just be both? And I know that's like, I'm getting like 8 million, or let's say 28 million is the population of Texas right now. Like 28 million Texans, if they could hear this right now, are screaming at me saying, Whataburger is better. And I'm like, I agree. Whataburger is better. I love Whataburger. I could eat it for breakfast. I could eat it for lunch. I could eat it for dinner. And I would be 300 pounds tomorrow if I did so. But still, I love Whataburger. They have the best breakfast. They have the best burgers. Their chicken sandwiches are off the chain. They're not as good as Chick-fil-A. But again, what chicken sandwich is. But anyway, there's like, you cannot go wrong. Their shakes are awesome. You cannot go wrong at Whataburger. You cannot. But it doesn't mean In-N-Out's gross. In-N-Out's good. It's really good. You get something animal style that is off the... I get the same thing at In-N-Out every single time. I get a double animal style, and I get it with a Coke or a Dr. Pepper, and then I get, and this is both me and my wife do this, we both get a medium size shake, and it's a mixture of chocolate and strawberry, and that is off the chain. That's a really old phrase for any like really young people that don't understand what off the chain is. That's a really, really old phrase. But anyway, it doesn't have to be one or the other. And every time I've said, like, yeah, In-N-Out's good, I get this look of death. Like, whether it be from people that I like barely like communicate with, or like some of my best friends, they just give me this look like, what are you talking about? In-N-Out's terrible. And I get like this look like they want to kick me out of the state. And I'm like, dude, it's not that bad. It's actually good. The first time I had In-N-Out, I was like really let down because there was so much hype around it. Like, the first time In-N-Out started really popping up in the Dallas area, there were so many people that were like, oh, In-N-Out's so good, In-N-Out's so good. And so I like go and watch it, and I'm like, or I go and watch it. I'm thinking of something else. I go and eat it, and I'm like, I mean, it's not bad, but you're making it sound like this is going to be the best, like this is going to like solve like any potential burger problem in the world, and you just didn't do it. Like the hype was just, it was overhyped. It wasn't that good. And then I ate it again. I was like, this is actually pretty good. It's not great. And I've gotten to the point now where I really like In-N-Out, where I'll just be like, where somebody's like, do you want Whataburger or do you want In-N-Out? And I'll be like, well, I probably had Whataburger for lunch that day, so I'll go to In-N-Out. No, I'm like, I'll go to In-N-Out. Sure, I like it. I mean, it's easier for me to go to Whataburger because I have a Whataburger 2 minutes from my house, and the closest In-N-Out to me is almost 30 minutes away. So obviously, if I have the choice, I'm going to go to Whataburger, not just because I do think it's better, but because it's closer. It's easier to get to. But that doesn't mean that you have to like hate In-N-Out. It's not like you have to like, it's not like you have to like the Cowboys or the Giants. It's like you can like both. Now, obviously, you can't like both the Cowboys and the Giants. That's not what I'm saying. But come on. You don't have to like one or the other when it comes to Whataburger and In-N-Out. They're both good. Whataburger is better. I agree with you. I agree with every single person. Whataburger is better. Hands down. It's not even a question. They are the best fast food burger on the planet. And I still can't get a follow from them. I hope that they can listen to this. And then they'll be like, okay, I guess we'll follow him now since he's plugging us, I guess. No, but for real. That's my walk-off for the day. Whataburger is better than In-N-Out, but it's okay to like both. It's all right. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. I am so glad that you guys joined me today for the first debut episode of the Big D podcast. Next episode, we are going to be talking about one of the teams, probably going to be the Texas Rangers. Not exactly sure what we're going to be talking about yet. Obviously, anything could pop up, but until next time, peace out.